Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of the SMIE Consulting Midweek Roundup. It's Wednesday, May 6th, 2026, and today we're going to be answering three questions we've been hearing from international educators over the last 7 days. And as we do each week, we come to you live with these questions about international education. The questions that we cover each Wednesday come from our newsletter that comes out on Mondays, and that newsletter is called All the SMIE News Fit to Share, and that is available online in a couple of different formats. You can find that on the website for SMIE Consulting, smieconsulting.org/subscribe. There are a couple different ways to subscribe to that video and or to that newsletter. Apologize for the confusion. I'm using a new format today. We've done away with our old Restream format because it was getting far too costly, and we're going with a new slimmed down Facebook Live, and we'll go and then distributing it across our social platforms as well as in the audio only podcast. So apologies for any slight technical challenges today, but we will be coming to you in this live format starting on Facebook. Tried to do it on LinkedIn, but there's some challenges with the provider. So there we go. Drop the link to the you can subscribe to the newsletter on either LinkedIn or through email. You can submit your details there. I'm also going to drop the links to both versions, the email and LinkedIn version of the newsletter, into the chat, so you can have that as well as we go along. Is what we do with the newsletter. We in preparation for the webinar or the live web chat we do here on Wednesdays, we do tend to look at the content of the newsletter, see if there's any common themes that we see developing in the week's news, and then ask the three questions that make sense, that might provide us the best opportunity a little bit deeper into what these particular topics might have to yield for us in terms of potential directions for our policies and our ways of conducting our international enrollment policies and strategic plans from our institutions. So we'll cover that as well as the content from the newsletters in the three questions that we answer. If you're not already subscribed, please do so because the content is quite useful. I think we between the two versions of the LinkedIn and the email version, we now have over 3,000 subscribers. Very proud of that. So many of my international education colleagues are reading our content each week and finding value in it. As anytime we go to conferences, I certainly hear it from colleagues who I've never met who've subscribed and have been seeing my podcast, seeing the live broadcasts, or catching the news stories and the content that comes out of that newsletter across LinkedIn and other platforms. So very pleased that so many of you are finding value in what we're producing each week. So thank you again for being a part of the SMIE Consulting family and consuming our content every week. So let's get right into the first question of the day, and that question is AI's ubiquitousness, and yes, that is a word, I did check it before I put it up there, is its ubiquitousness in international education a problem or becoming a problem? And why do I say that? It is, there's colleagues who are all in with AI, have been using it for months, if not a couple of years, in trying to leverage it to help improve efficiencies within their offices, improve their writing, improve their data analytics, to assess all the various sources of content that are out there, data content that are out there, to help them kind of distill it into the essentials of what's important, what's perhaps a new strategy to take, given numbers that reflect a reality perhaps that wouldn't be clear to everyone. So there's a lot of that's just in international education in terms of how we're using it in our jobs, in our offices, international admissions, international student recruitment. We also have vendors that are contacting us. Some it certainly feels like daily, but at least weekly, with new products that their companies are rolling out to improve efficiencies and improve effectiveness in targeting international students and seamless integration into our CRMs and all of these other magical buzzwords that seem to catch our ears and catch our eyes when we're reading them on the page or on our screens. So what I will say is that's everybody's trying to help us do our jobs better. One of those key in the enrollment management industry is EAB, a major player in terms of enrollment advising and certainly consulting across the U.S. higher education landscape, and in the interest of full disclosure, EAB is working with the University of Akron. What I'm sharing today isn't anything privileged or that we get specifically from them, but they are coming out with a webinar actually tomorrow, Thursday, May 7th at 12 noon Eastern, and it is AI search visibility in higher education, what you need to know and do now to prepare for fall. So it's an important topic because it's not just what allows us to do our jobs and how AI is impacting or can impact what we do. It's also all the other parts of the college experience, from how, as this webinar is pointing out, how students are first finding out about our institutions through search. They're using AI tools to do that. How is that changing the game from typical SEO challenges that we've had in the past couple decades for how students reach us? So as far as the webinar topic, it's a great topic to find out how students are using us, using AI tools to leverage, to find out information about who's going to be on their short list. You also see students in the first year or so that generative AI was becoming a thing. We saw all sorts of concerns from admissions offices and institutions about how higher education or how students would be using AI tools to help them write their essays. Oh, heaven forbid they write their essays. Oh my goodness, what would that do? So that was a bit of an interesting one to see how that was going to roll out. But we see these kinds of things happening regularly. We see then institutions kind of going the opposite direction, going kind of figuring out how they're going to spin that. And whether or not that's something that they can live with, and whether or not it's if they need to employ anti-AI detection tools or AI detection tools in when they review essays and other things for their college applicants. So you then see how colleges are using it in the classroom, students and faculty, and back and forth, pro and con, and should we enforce, be very strict with the use of AI, or do we need to be using it as we try and do as much as possible at UA to try and use it as a tool that can help students? So we have a responsibility, some will say, to educate our students on how AI can be used to improve efficiencies and effectiveness in terms of the work that's produced and that type of thing. Not replicating or replacing the work that students need to do, be able to know how to do to be effective in this world, but to be able to refine and improve and find opportunities to improve that effectiveness. So we also see another story out of the Chronicle this week is where students are finding out, generating their short list. They're not just what EAB is talking about with the search, but also how they're generating their short list of institutions before they even come to your institutional website. They're tracking all these other external sources, and some would say some are using a bit of legitimate skepticism in their reviews of some of these results, particularly on chat forums and such, that might not be well founded or well sourced and that type of thing. So we see the rise up to 46%. The EAB data shows that 46% of respondents are researching colleges and universities using AI supported tools. So that's up over 26% from the previous year. So almost a doubling in a year of use of these tools, AI search tools, to find information out about colleges and universities. So there's some skepticism there about whether this is actually the best way of going about it. Certainly those that have been in the business for a while will say that the kind of content you can get generated from AI isn't always going to be accurate and isn't going to be complete and will leave out holes and may mistake one institution. If you've got multiple campuses, one institution that might be really good and another branch campus that maybe is not, but that's the one that gets pulled in research in search sites. So there's a lot of challenges going on there with how AI is being implemented. There's also on the back end, you see what students are doing beyond what they're doing in the classroom and how they're leveraging AI either to help them replace what they're doing or to improve some of the work that they produce. You're also seeing the students at the end of their academic careers, even if not before they even begin their academic careers, thinking about, well, what field do I go into? And I want to go into a field that's not going to get replaced by AI. The jobs will be lost and get replaced by AI if in the coming years. So there's an Inside Higher Ed piece that 4 in 10 students say that AI will influence their career choices. In terms of what majors they can do. So it's becoming incumbent upon institutions now to take a very prescriptive view of and circumspect view of what their academic programs are leading to in terms of careers, and are those careers influenced or potential victims of AI technology? Or do we take the approach that, hey, AI can be used in every academic discipline for good and to help improve? And as I mentioned earlier, do we have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility, to prepare our graduates for how these new AI tools can be used? And certainly, have they fully evolved? Of course not. They just became a thing, generative AI, at least in terms of the news and popular perception, only within the last two and a half years. So they're not done evolving yet either, because Skynet is not sentient yet. So all of those things, 80s reference for Terminator fans. But certainly most students now are savvy enough to know that AI could potentially impact a lot of perhaps entry-level jobs, and certain industries would be harder hit than others in terms of job replacement. But you also see Amazon warehouses, perhaps, would be one area that probably will be heavily influenced by AI technologies in the future. But what about everyday jobs that traditional academic careers are preparing students for? Are they going to be are those jobs even going to still exist in 5-10 years? So students are rightfully concerned that are they going to be getting the right skill set while they're in college to prepare them for their careers that they're going to face when they graduate? And for those forward-thinking professors and departments at universities, and leadership certainly needs to be taking a close look at these opportunities, is how can we be using AI in teaching AI, not just as a standalone subject on how to program it or how to manage it, that type of thing, but frankly, how to leverage it in what we do with our different fields, and how professors need to take the lead on that, because even though some of them have been around a while, they need to be aware of what the implications are of new technologies on their profession. And so making sure that our students know how to use these tools to help them better understand the profession, maybe enhance their ability to affect change in their profession after they finish their degrees and do well in that first, second, third job. So there's a lot of applications for what we do, and certainly it's not just in the admissions process, it's not just even in the search process, it's while they're students on our campus, it's what they're thinking about when they graduate, and are we preparing them well to use those AI tools for their careers once they're done? Do we have that obligation? And that is that the problem that we're facing right now in higher education? So I wanted to bring that to as a question today, it's more of get the conversation started. There's no easy answers to this, but I do think it is a problem for institutions that are in reactive mode to what AI is doing to higher education and to society in general. But instead of trying to get ahead of things and trying to be an institution that can be forward-looking, that can be one that's preparing their students for success in their chosen field, using AI to enhance their ability to succeed in their jobs. So that's where I want to make sure within international students, obviously even more so, it's a concern, because students who come from the other side of the planet to come to our institutions, whose families pay extraordinary amounts of money for them to come and make this journey, make that commitment to get a degree on our campuses, are they getting value for money in terms of preparation for that career after they graduate? We all say yes, because of our focus on well-roundedness, and particularly at the undergraduate level, that holistic approach, that lifelong learning approach, that liberal arts foundation that every student gets, that enhances those kind of soft skills that we talk about all the time. AI is also can be one of those soft, maybe that's a hard skill that we need to be starting to teach as well. And particularly in the different academic programs that we offer, there should be opportunities to use AI to enhance what we do and prepare students for how these tools can be leveraged when they're out in the work world. So not a definitive discussion by any stretch, and certainly covers a lot of ground, not just behind the scenes what we do internally with our jobs in international education, but how our institutions project what we're able to do with AI tools and AI's growth and its impact on our societies, on our communities, and on our campuses. So let's move on to the second question, and that is, are we ready for the end of DS rule? And yes, folks, it does seem to be coming. We've had independent confirmation from a couple different sources. The Pine News has had an article about it this past week. We've seen in some of the Facebook groups for ISSS folks. Some have had conversations with their local field reps, service reps, and that they're making comments that yes, it does look like it's going to be happening soon, and certainly, even though the specifics haven't been confirmed yet, it does largely seem to be, despite all the 20,000 plus public comments that came in on it, all the proposed rule changes, it does look like it's going to be implemented as is from what they proposed last year. So that is a huge shift. And certainly a big change for ISSS offices in terms of the impact it's going to have. It will mean every new student will have a maximum of 4 years on their initial I-20s, and then anything after that, they'll have to apply for an extension. If they're lucky enough to finish in 4 years and they want to apply for OPT, they have to apply for an extension for that OPT to happen. If they need an extra year to finish their degree, they have to provide the documentation, and instead of that just being done internally on campus, they now have to apply to Homeland Security or USCIS for that permission to extend their stay. And it's a year at a time or 2 years at a time, depending on what the program is. If they're going from bachelor's to OPT, they're going to have to apply for an extension at least once to get their OPT approved. If they're applying to go from OPT back to do a second degree, like a master's degree, they're going to have to apply for an extension again, in addition to once they gotten admitted to a new institution. So it's adding $474 worth of expense minimum each time that they need to file for an extension. There has not been any conversation yet on how CIS is going to staff this, because there are already massive backlogs on OPT and other benefits that international students and other non-immigrants have, that's USCIS processes. So no, because this is going to affect potentially 250,000 students every year that are graduating or going from graduation to OPT, or from graduation from one program into another program. So the massive amounts of volume that USCIS will have to deal with is fairly extreme. It also prevents doing a second master's degree. It prevents changing an academic program, particularly at the graduate level. It also requires, and the one positive I think out of all this, it requires new students once they get to the United States and get to a college campus, they can't transfer for a full year. So that's certainly institutions will like that are the receivers of those initial I-20s from students. They have to go to the institution that has their visa stamp in their passport. So that's something that colleges and universities certainly will like. That are those initial ones. So there'll be the transfer out issues won't be a real as big a concern. There'll still be transfer outs that will transfer or not. They won't transfer out. They'll disappear basically if there are new students coming in and they can't transfer, or they decide not to show up at all. Then that's a whole other issue. But a lot in that will impact every international student in the United States. I doubt that there will be one that won't be affected by this at some point, unless they do a 2-year master's degree, 1-year OPT, and they can still do that inside of 4 years. But if you're doing a doctoral program, most all undergraduates that take more than 4 years, and certainly just to be able to do OPT, you got to file an extension. So you actually have to file not just the I-765 for the OPT, but you also have to 539 to apply for the extension. So you're getting double hit when you apply in terms of costs that students will need to bear. So a lot of implications. It's going to be the biggest talking point at this SNAFs, I'm sure, unless they pop something else new out of the oven and lay it on us during NAFSA week. But it's coming. So are you prepared? I think they've given us enough lead time. People were talking about this happening around Christmas, that they make the rule final. Then people were thinking March, but now it looks like May. Certainly by the end of May, it's going to happen. So it's going to be May. And that's not just an NSYNC song that we made fun of last Friday. But you're going to be hearing that conversation for the next few weeks. It's certainly going to be something that shouldn't be a big surprise, frankly, for ISSS offices, that since it did come out last fall, early fall, that it was coming. So it will be the campuses, and I know we have done this at UA, the campuses that have looked at what that initial rule was and have made contingency plans for what happens when this goes into effect. What will our communication strategy be? What will we need to update on our website? How will this impact our weekly communications? We do a very good job of that at UA in terms of weekly communications on what those priorities are. I think we need to evolve, as should most colleges, evolve how we communicate this, not just through emails and not just through posts on the website, but through messaging and other means to make sure we're getting these vital messages in front. And international students won't have any excuses if they fall out of status. That could be it for them, because we know that this administration, at least, is much less sympathetic. So that's certainly coming down the pike, and one that we've all been dreading happening. But the wise amongst us will have hopefully not just buried their heads in the sand, but actually prepared some plans for what to do if and when this comes into play. So let's keep our fingers crossed that more are on the former side than the latter in terms of preparation for this. Now, let's switch to the last question of the day. And we do like to reserve one of the 3 questions that we cover here on Wednesdays on the Roundup for an international related topic, not just international ed, but what's happening with international ed in other countries, or how higher education is impacted in other countries by other concerns, push and pull factors that may or may not be driving students from their countries overseas, or that are preventing them from enrolling. So that question is something that came up in the pie last week. Is South Africa's lack of higher education seats symptomatic of the larger continent's problems? And when I say here, it's a supply and demand issue. The article that the Pie has this past week is "Demand Outstrips Capacity at South Africa's Universities," warns the University of Johannesburg Vice Chancellor. So it seems to be, the public universities at least, are facing a profound contradiction from the article, as demand for higher ed surges beyond capacity. And this is from the Vice Chancellor at the University of Johannesburg, Leflokakwa Mepede. So in terms of what they're saying, there was a Universitas 21 Leadership Summit in Glasgow, Scotland, that Mepede was talking about enrollment at South Africa's public universities has doubled since the end of apartheid. That institutions are basically turning away large numbers of qualified applicants, and are grappling with the financial and infrastructure constraints that they have on their physical campuses and their ability to expand. So public universities in South Africa were about 500,000 students in 1994 and about 1 million by 2011, and that growth has continued. So it's more than doubled, actually. So what we're seeing now, capacity has not kept pace. That for current academic year, Mapede says the University of Johannesburg received about 450,000 applicants, generating roughly 850,000 individual applications for just 11,200 first-year places. So obviously very competitive there, less than 1 in 8 getting positions that are applying. So 1 in 8, 1 in 800, 1 in 80. So my math skills are terrible, so I apologize for that. So 1 in 8 in 80,000 perhaps are getting positions here. So that is obviously concerning for South Africans applying for spots. So, and what he's saying is that it's difficult to turn away so many people who meet minimum requirements as public institutions. So the capacity issues are real concern in South Africa, and South Africa, frankly, is the one of the leading economies and probably one of the most significant economies in the African continent. But in other countries in the region, certainly on the continent, you see similar push factors across the continent that are clearly identifying a lack of capacity to meet the growing demand for higher education positions. And we all have been hearing for at least the last 5-6 years that Africa is going to have 40% of the world's youth population by 2030, and that's remarkable to think of. And there's no way, frankly, without enormous investments, double, treble, quadrupling what they already have, to meet the demand for positions at higher ed institutions. When you have either a limited number of institutions or limited seats and a limited number of institutions, you run into a very untenable position. And what do you do? What do those students do if they can't get a higher education? Are there adequate trade schools that they can go into? Are there other opportunities? Do those with any funds start looking more abroad than they already are? These are the kinds of things that questions that most of these countries that are dealing with supply and demand issues, and it's not isolated to just Africa. There are countries all over the globe that have a lack of supply of higher education seats that are pushing students to seek opportunities outside of their home countries. And that's what the global race for the internationally mobile student is all about. You see more and more. We've seen, I look back at the numbers when I was a first year officer in our admissions office at Marquette back in 1993. I think there were 2.3 or 2.4 million students studying outside their home country. Now it's 7.3, so it's tripled inside of 30 plus years. So that desire of folks young students to study outside their home country is just growing primarily because it's a push and pull factors. One, because they're the top students. Not all the top students can get into the best universities in their countries, and they don't want to take steps down in quality, so they look abroad. Or there's always been a dream of studying abroad, so that's driven them to look at other countries. An increasingly growing list of countries that are offering higher education options to international students. So, plenty to digest from this week's Midweek Roundup. Thank you for bearing with us with this new format. Appreciate you being a part of the conversation, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week in our lead up to NAFSA. Thanks very much, and talk to you soon. Cheers.